Hello, everybody. Welcome to another live episode of today's topic: Can natural immune boosters versus the new strain, which is Omicron. So, what will we do if there's new strain? So, we've already discussed that this morning, and today we were going to discuss it in English for the benefit of those who are not able to understand it in Filipino. So, what are the top 10 natural immune boosters versus COVID versus the new strain, and just natural immune booster in general? Because regardless if there's new strain, whether it's Omicron or it's Delta or whatever strain it is, the most important aspect of this is that we improve our health. So, first, number one tip is actually sun exposure. So, sun exposure is very important because of two things. It will activate your vitamin D in the body, and with vitamin D activation, there is a link into improvement in our immune system. The second one would be the melatonin activation within our mitochondria. So our melatonin is known as a sleeping hormone, but now we learned that melatonin is actually an antioxidant. It is an antioxidant that helps us fight pathogens, that helps us improve our overall well-being. And whenever we are infected or we get to face stress, we are able to combat them. And there is a link of lowered inflammation when your melatonin is increased. In fact, melatonin is not just a sleeping hormone, but I usually call it as a healing hormone. And as much as nighttime or darkness activates melatonin in our pineal glands, there is another kind of melatonin that is activated within our mitochondria whenever we expose ourselves in the sun. So, this is the beauty of circadian rhythm. With circadian rhythm, you are actually exposed to daytime and nighttime, and correction of those exposure will lead into correction also of our sleeping pattern. When our sleeping pattern is also corrected, that's the time that our body is also able to do its function, like the usual rest and relaxation within the day, the usual recovery that our body needs whenever it has the needed rest that it needs after a whole day's work, after a whole week work. Exposure to the sun can reset your circadian rhythm, and with your correction of your circadian rhythm, your metabolism would also improve. Disruption in circadian rhythm is known to induce metabolic problems, including diabetes, including metabolic syndrome. So, sun exposure is so important that even people who are not into low carb, people who are eating a lot of grains, people who are eating root crops and mostly very starchy vegetables still has been shown to have better health simply because they have adequate sun exposure. So what you can do is to have a 15 to 30 minutes sun exposure, direct sun exposure during the day. And don't worry, I've read a while ago that for those who are not in the Philippines, who are not in the tropics, who are currently in winter right now, even if it's snowing, the fact that you have sun, it's daytime, there is still some degree of UV light coming in. In fact, there are people who, despite winter, despite snowing, you can still get some degree of sunburn. But don't put it up to a point that you will get sunburn. So just 15 minutes from 10 in the morning or 11 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon, you can just have 15 minutes of sun exposure. Or if it's earlier or a little later where it is already not so hot, then you can increase that up to 30 minutes or even longer sometimes. So you can do that. So sun exposure is the number one thing that you can do to boost your immune system. And the second one is sleep. So it's just Z here, but it's actually also connected with water. So with that, let me drink water. This is actually my first water in 24 hours. I am currently fasting, and I will tell you more about it later. Okay, so water never tastes that good, especially after you've dry fasted. So sleep is very important. I know sometimes I also lack sleep, like last night, thus I have the eye bags because I have a flight to catch. But generally, make sure that you have 6 to 9 hours of sleep in a span of 1 week, at least 5 times. never go undersleep for more than 2 times in a week. So in a week's time, at least you get a 6 hours or more, but not more than 9 hours of sleep. So for those of you who are having trouble sleeping, you can improve your sleep by first making sure that your last food intake is about 4 hours. If you can even stretch it to 6 hours before your bedtime, and also your water intake. That's why we mentioned it, you also need to regulate your water intake. No need to drink a liter of water or even 1 glass of full water right before sleeping. Your body also needs rest, including water metabolism or the processing of your kidneys to filter all of those water. You don't need so much, especially when at night the temperature is cooler, so you don't sweat a lot. And of course, you don't need to always overwork your kidneys. So with water intake, if you still feel like you are thirsty, just try to think to sip little by little. No need to drink the whole gulp whenever you sleep. And before you sleep, just go to the bathroom, go to the toilet, and urinate so that you will have continuous sleep. If you do high carb, if you eat a lot of carbs, especially at night, some may say that they have better sleep, but actually, that increase in your blood sugar will also be the one to make you pee a lot, especially if you do it often. If your body is already inflamed, then your tendency to hold on to that urine in your bladder is also very little. So, from time to time, you are going to have frequent urination. So when there is frequent urination, you pee little by little each time. So sleep is very important. This is essential because it corrects our circadian rhythm, and with correction of our circadian rhythm, also goes our capacity to combat infection. Number three is mobility. So if you are still starting low carb, no need to force yourself. So are we still here? Let's see. Okay. Thank you. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see me. Can anybody confirm if they can see me? Let's check. Yes. Okay, I think we're good. Okay. Can anybody confirm if you can see me? If you can see me, then we continue. Somebody just cut our video. Yes, thank you so much. So with next hour mobility, you thank you very much. So I'm currently ordering my food and they're all here. I'll show you later. So the third one is mobility. Again, you don't need to force yourself into exercising, especially if you are still starting your low carb journey. Be sure to be fat adapted first, and when you are already fat adapted, that's the time that you do your exercise. But if you are already doing your exercise and you are doing great with it and you are still starting low carb, then maybe you can move your exercise a little later, a little less, so that your body will become more fat adapted. If you are still not doing standard regular exercise, just don't avoid mobility. If you need to go somewhere, try to walk. If you need to go upstairs, try to not use the elevator or the escalator or use the stairs. If you need to park, try to park a little far so that you will have that extra footsteps in order for you to move those muscles. Mobility will increase our endurance, stress, our capacity to endure stress. So, with Okay, we are back. So when it comes to mobility, thank you so much. I need to get that call. So when it comes to mobility, if you are doing proper exercise, that's better. But don't ever entrust everything with just exercise. Exercise is good, it is best, but it is best paired with good nutrition, especially with the right kind of food, which we will discuss later. When it comes to exercise, just move. You don't need to go to the gym. You don't need to buy equipments. There are a lot of free exercises that you can do. You can follow even in as little as 10 minutes. You can already improve your health. You can search for high intensity interval training or an opposite to that, but equally or even better when it comes to bone health and muscle building is actually very, very, very slow exercise. Instead of moving fast, you are moving very, very slowly, and in a very little amount of time, you can get better improvement when it comes to your muscle and bone strength. So that's number three for our immune boosting techniques when it comes to this pandemic. So we will flash this out so that you are guided that right now we are discussing again the 10 natural immune boosters versus the new strain, and in general, any other infections, any other stresses, we can boost our immune system. So as a recap, sun exposure 15 to 30 minutes a day, sleep of at least 6 hours, minimum of 5 times a week. You can also do exercise. So when it comes to exercise, just if it's regular exercise, then 30 minutes, 5 times a week, it's okay. But if you do HIIT, so as little as 4 minutes to up to 10 minutes a day only, you can already get the same benefits. So I think HIIT and very, very slow exercise is best for those who are very busy. And so 4 minutes is no longer an excuse that you do not have time. And number four is positivity. Positivity is very important because if you are always allowing your body to undergo stress despite having good intake of low carb nutrition, sticking to your fasting, and even if you're exercising, and even if you are sleeping well, and even if you are doing sun exposure, but if your positivity is always low, you're always focusing on the negative side, you're not focusing on the improvements that you have, you're not focusing on the good things, then you can still have that cortisol response. And when your stress response, stress hormone is always elevated, then you will have the tendency to still have that elevated blood sugar and inflammation. And even if there's no elevated blood sugar, the body's response for inflammation is worsened. You are like, your immune system is always down when your positivity is low. So, what you can do is whenever you think or whenever you find yourself being pessimistic again, feeling negative again, this is the time that you try to think, you counter it by thinking of at least three things that you are thankful for, three things that you are grateful for. So the fact that you are breathing, that the fact that you have clothing, the fact that you are not homeless, or the fact that you can breathe, the fact that you can see, the fact that you can understand what I am saying, those are the one of the many things that you can already be grateful for. But of course, if you are having a hard time and you feel like you need professional help, please don't ever say no to professional help, because they are professionals for a reason. And I know a lot of people who were in denial at first, but the moment they opened up themselves for professional help, they see a lot of improvement. And if you are not yet prepared, there are a lot of self-help books that you can check, that you can try to read also. I think book three of the Perfect at Last book series is mostly on mental health, and it would also give you that positivity in case you needed a boost. If you haven't read that, try to contact our admins, and we have ebooks available, PDF or hard copy through Amazon. And the fifth one would be faith. So faith is very important. I discussed this morning the effect of placebo effect. So placebo effect is the effect of a certain empty drug, empty tablet that people take in during clinical trials on experiment, just by the fact that they believe that what they are taking is medicine, that it can make them heal, even if that tablet is empty, already produces healing, already produces effect. So it can range as low as 15% to 25%, and sometimes it can even be as high as 45 to up to 60%. So what can we learn from placebo effect? Placebo effect is something that we can maximize. That the fact that we believe that we are healing, we can already see some benefits. We can heal up to 50, 60, or even up to 75% of the time. And of course, You can pair it up with proper nutrition, with the other tips here: proper rest, positivity, sun exposure, exercise if necessary, and avoidance of the junk. So, faith is very, very important, and it's not just about just one religion, it's not just about being superstitious about it. Faith has scientific basis. It has been proven and tested. And if you want to check out the movie or documentary Heal, HEAL, it's about 1,500 miraculous recoveries of end stage cancers. Patients who are at the brink of death, they've already had prognosis, they will die in a matter of 6 months or less, but they've experienced miraculous healing that instead of their dying in 6 months' time, they've reversed their condition, and it's because of 10 things that they've found out. And about those 10 things that are common among those 1,500 survivors, 7 items of them is about faith. And 7 items is about faith that they can heal, faith that they have a superior being, a higher being that's protected them, faith and belief that they are needed in this world, faith from their loved ones, that their loved ones wants them to live, and their own will to really live and to really heal. So faith is very, very important regardless of religion, regardless of your belief, because having just faith, having just belief can already do so much. And when it comes to our sixth is to lose the fat weight. So when it comes to fat weight, it's not just about the subcutaneous fat. It's not just about the cheeks. It's not about the arms. It's not just about the belly, but it can also be the fats within your viscera. So it's the visceral fats that we need to lower down. The overall total cholesterol, especially if it's high in triglycerides and high in VLDL. And for those with fatty liver, don't worry, it can still be reversed. No need for medications when it comes to fatty liver, just proper allocation of macronutrients, lessening your carbohydrate intake, controlling your fat intake, focusing more on your proteins, but not overdoing when it comes to calories, because you still have fats to lose. So when you do lose weight, make sure it's fat weight and not muscle weight. Because if you lose muscle weight, that is detrimental. It will become opposite. It will have an opposite effect, and that is making yourself at risk with the virus and the many bad effects of the virus, which can include severity or even death. So in addition to losing fat weight, if you need to gain, especially for those who are already normal weight or underweight, what you need to gain is not just any weight, but muscle weight. So you have to gain muscles. And one way for you to gain muscles is to increase your protein intake and at the same time increase your exercise. Do strength training, do muscle building exercises. You might want to avoid cardio because cardio exercises will make you look even lean, but it will not make you gain muscles. Yes, it will make your muscles strong, but your muscles will not have that muscle weight, that bulk that you might want to have. And that is very important. And for the eighth tip is avoid overeating. So whenever we say avoid overeating, 3 times a day, 4 times a day, especially if it's carbo loaded, is actually already overeating. I hope you get to appreciate how intermittent fasting can help you. You can start with just 12 hours of intermittent fasting. Initially, it might come as a conscious decision, as a deliberate decision, but once you actually get used to it, you will find that it's no already a no-brainer. You no longer need to think too much when it comes to eating. Just like me, I'm still going to have my first meal for the day. It's already 4:30 in the afternoon. I closed my window yesterday at 2:30, so right now I'm already 26 hours fasting. So I haven't eaten for the last 26 hours. For the last 24 hours, even, I've been on dry fasting and I'm okay. So it is okay to not overeat. I was very busy. I was traveling from Bacolod to Manila and I did a lot of errands to before the weekends and before I start working this coming week because I might not have time to do those errands. So I need to finish everything today. And that is just enough for me to settle down here, go live with you, and eat the food that I'm going to eat. And of course, number nine, in relation to avoiding overeating, is to eating low carb. So, as again, we are eating low carb, avoid the ones that are going to spike your insulin. So, when it comes to low carb, we have the JGC Rojo food list. If you are on Facebook or if you are in YouTube, try to search the JGC Rojo food list in our page, in our Facebook page. And there's also a video that I made on the explanation of the JGC Rojo food list when it comes to safe lists, the caution list, and the danger list. So what I have here are Indian foods because I miss Indian foods. It's been a month, more than a month since I left Dubai, and I haven't eaten Indian foods again. So this one is chicken tikka, and also I have here paneer. So you already know paneer, and paneer is our food that's made up of cow milk. So it's like tofu, but coming from cow's milk. So these are mostly protein rich with natural fats. So these are the foods that you can eat if ever you go Indian. But for the general Filipino food, so any ulam, any viand, any meat, and any vegetables are already considered low carb. So try to check the JGC Rojo food list for your guidance. And of course, lastly, you just avoid junk. So one of the worst thing that you can do is to feed the virus, is to feed the bacteria, is to feed the pathogens that are living in your body or is available everywhere that we can get. So I hope you can avoid them, but if you cannot avoid them, try to not feed them because if you are always eating junk, especially sweet, even if it's fruit, even if it's honey, those foods are still the food that those viruses and bacteria love so much and they will thrive. Instead of you making your body stronger, you are giving them better chances of survival and overcoming your own immune system. So those are the 10 things that you need. And if we have a summary, those are the sun exposure, 15 to 30 minutes a day, sleep of minimum of 6 hours, at least 5 times a week, movement. It depends on what kind of exercise that you will do. If it's just brisk walking or jogging, so 30 minutes 5 times a week is okay. If you're doing HIIT, so 10 minutes 5 times a week is okay. If you are doing very, very slow exercise, just 4 minutes in a day, that can already be enough. And of course, positivity, always stay positive, have faith, because those are very, very essential. You cannot reach optimum health without those. Number six is losing fat weight. It can be in the form of subcutaneous fat, especially for females. For males, it's more on the visceral fats and including fatty liver and the belly. So make sure that your waist circumference at the level of your umbilicus is less than half of your height. And when it comes to gaining weight, especially for those who are already underweight, gain muscle weight. So always gain muscle weight by increasing your protein intake and at the same time, increasing your resistance training. Do resistance training, do some weights, lift some weights. And for those who are afraid to eat too much proteins, that's actually not true. There's no need to fear proteins. There's only need to fear proteins and fats if you are eating them together with too much carbohydrates. But eating proteins alone and a good amount of fats alone, it's so hard to overeat, especially if you don't eat them together with carbohydrates, even starchy vegetables. So number 8 is avoid overeating. You can incorporate circadian fasting if you can. Just try to search our video on 18/6 circadian fasting. That's my favorite circadian fasting schedule. If you wish to know more about that, that's part of the 10 natural immune booster versus the new COVID strain. And number 9, of course, eating low carb the way that I'm going to do now. And lastly, avoiding junk. So that's it for today. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope you get to learn something. This is especially made for those with family and friends who cannot understand Filipino. And if you just want to know more, you can follow our page. We have our YouTube channel if you wish to know more. So this is the top 10 natural immune booster versus the new strain of COVID and versus any other pathogens in general. That's it for today. Thank you very much, everybody. Remember to always stay low carb so that we all stay safe. So let's just do a water cheers. Goodbye, everyone.